There, she lost two little kids when one of them only lived 9 hours, a little girl named Pauline. And then we had a little boy, he lived to be about 2 years old. And that was when Dana was talking about my mother had something in her eye and she was holding her eye open. And she said, "Do you see anything in mine?" He just took his fingers, jabbed her right in the eyes. And right there, that was, I guess he did have something in her eye, his finger.
What was the best piece of advice your parents gave you?
Know what?
What was the best piece of advice your parents gave you?
Well, the best piece of advice my parents ever give me was best piece was to be a Christian, to always live for the Lord, even though for years my dad and mom, they didn't live for the Lord, but my mother, she was still quite, she was believed in the Lord, but she didn't always serve Him. But anyway, that's the best advice I ever got from my mom. My dad, he started out with the Lord one time, but he didn't carry on with it. He never did, unless he changed just before he passed away. For a year or so, he stopped drinking and didn't. And I think maybe his heart, he changed. I don't know.
How did you meet Grandma Ruth?
How did I meet her?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was when I went to Oregon, and the way I met her, first time she saw me, I was drunk. She saw me up in town in Independence, Oregon, and she was with her cousin, which lived down in the same bean camp that I lived in. He's just a young guy, same as I was. And they was riding around up there, and so I saw him drive by, and I run out in the street and tell my mom and them that wouldn't be home and I was going to go to Portland, Oregon. And she was in the car with her cousin, and she said, "Who is that guy?" And he said, "He lives down there." And she told me, she said, "I'd go with that guy even if I had to go with him in the horse and buggy." And so later on, he told me about what she said. And so I don't know just how, but I asked her one time for a date, and she said yes. So when I went to pick her up, I said, "Come and get in this buggy." And she said, "Where's the horses?" I said, "They're under the hood." So that's the way we got met, and then we started going together, and then we got married like I said, and we met in probably May, and we got married in July.
When was the moment you realized you wanted to marry her?
Mm-hmm.
When did you figure out you wanted to marry her?
Oh, I fell in love with her when I first saw her. She was a very pretty girl, very pretty lady, very, very Christian, a good Christian lady, and I guess that's how I became a Christian. Is she prayed a lot for me, and she lived a life before me.
Did you guys have a honeymoon?
Huh?
Did you guys have a honeymoon?
Well, the only honeymoon we had was working in the beans. We picked beans, and I had a little cabin. I had moved to Salem, and I was picking cherries. And when we got married, that's where we spent our honeymoon, was out in the cherry field picking cherries. So that was about it. What did you do?
So if you could give any advice to your grandchildren about marriage, what would it be?
If I get, oops,
Okay, it's okay.
if I had any advice for the grandkids, it would be to get saved at a real young age, and serve the Lord, and when they meet their companion, that they would make sure that their companion was a real good Christian, and that they would have a great life together.
So who picked out your kids' names? Grandma or you?
Well, my wife didn't like the names I picked out.
What would you have named them? What are some of their
Well,
names?
I told her, I said Sam or Joe, and she said, I ain't gonna, said them old names, I ain't gonna. So she picked out Randy and Dana, Brenda, Gary, and Rod,
And Pam.
and Pam,
What are you going to do?
because they didn't like the names I picked.
What would you have chosen for the girls?
Probably Jim or Jane or something like that. Yeah, but she named them good names, I'll have to say. She gave them good names.
Were you ever scared to be a parent?
Was I what?
Were you ever scared to be a parent, to be a dad?
Scared?
Were you ever scared to be a parent?
Scared?
Mm-hmm.
No, I always figured that if I had kids that I'd try to raise them right, raise them in the ways of the Lord, and I tried to do that to best my ability. Sometimes I wasn't so perfect, but I tried to raise them, and I think me and my wife together, me and Ruth, well, I think we've done a pretty good job.
I'd like to say so too.
We've
So-
done a pretty good job.
So what do you remember about when each of your kids were born? So like, what do you remember about
Mama,
when Uncle Randy was born? Like, granted you were gone, but how did you find out that Uncle Randy was born?
How did I find out?
Yeah.
Oh, I was overseas when he was born. I was overseas when he was born, and my sister-in-law, she sent me a letter and told me that they had taken Ruth to the hospital, and Ruth said when they brought Randy in to see her, that they had a little T-shirt on it, and he had a hole in the little T-shirt, and when he looked so pitiful, it's just that hole in his little shirt. But that's when I found out that he was born.
Did you guys know the genders before they were born, or no?
No. I don't know if they, back when he was born, if they even knew about that, or back in the 50s, I don't know if that's been a long time ago.
How about my dad? Were you there when my dad was born?
Yeah, yeah. Dana, he was, we had rented a little house, and this was back in about 53, I think that's when he was born.
Yes. He was born in 50.
And
Four. Yeah, he was born in 54.
54. Well, I remember we had rented a little house there in Salida, and I think was paying $30 a month for a little house, 2-bedroom house, and Randy was just about 4. No, let's see, he was 3, I think, 3 years old, and he one day, well, after we brought Dana home, well, my wife heard him, Randy in there just a grunting, and she went in there, and he was trying to get Dana out of the bassinet or out of the bed, little bed that we had for him, and he was trying to get him and hold him. Randy was trying to hold Dana, and then Pam, after that, I didn't, always enjoyed the little babies. I like little babies, little kids. Little kids just has a thing with me. I just love them all. They seem, little babies, little kids seem so innocent to me. And I just love them all, especially my grandkids.
So what do you remember about when Aunt Pam was born?
What?
What do you remember about when Aunt Pam was born?
I don't remember too much about
The rest of them?
yeah, it's been too long ago.
What qualities of your children are most like you? What things do your kids do that you're like, oh, that's from me?
Like if I was quiet, I think,
Like, what quality do you think Uncle Randy gets from you?
Randy is quiet, more of a quiet person, like me.
Okay, what does he get from his mom? What do you think he gets from Grandma?
She was kind of quiet too.
She's kind of quiet too.
Yeah, she was kind of quiet. And so he kind of got it from both sides, really.
What about my dad?
Dana was always a real mild, even from a little boy. He never was real high-tempered, or he never did show it anyway. I guess he could be pretty high-tempered if he had a cause to be, but he was always mild and tempered and easy to get along with.
What about Aunt Pam?
Pam was a real fiery person.
Who'd she get that from?
She got that from my in-laws. They had a real mouth on them. I mean, they could, Ruth and them could, Ruth never did, but if somebody said something, she had the words to say back that would let them know she was there, But that's where they got that.
I can see that. When Grandma had Alzheimer's, I could see that fiery personality came out.
She wouldn't take anything, family wouldn't. And she'd fight for her brothers and sisters. Somebody do something to her brothers and sisters, they had her to fight. I remember one time, there was some kid, Pam was taking care of the kids, and we went to town or someplace, or maybe they'd just been playing out. Anyway, there's a kid there, and he was a little bit older than Randy or Rod, whichever one he hit. But Pammy, she went over and told his mother, and I remember Pam said that she called him in and she asked him something about, did you do that? And anyway, she slapped him upside the head. Pammy said, and his head hit the door facing. And she was always protective of her brothers and sisters.
What about Uncle Rod?
Uncle Rod?
Yeah.
Rod was like his in-laws too. I mean, his grandma and grandpa, and he took after Garrison because he's got a real sharp tongue. If he thinks somebody's being mean to him, or if they're trying to get something over him, he can find the words to defend himself.
And then how about Uncle Gary?
Uncle Gary is a fiery one.
Who's he get that from?
Well, I can be. But I try to hold my temper down. But Gary, he's out with everything. If you ask him a question, whether you like it or not, you're going to get the answer. I mean, he's got the answer, whatever it is, but he's not two-faced or nothing. He'll let you know how it is.
And then what about Aunt Brenda?
Aunt Brenda, she's another one that she's kind of calm, but if she don't watch herself, she can let her tongue get away with her. But most of the time, she's a good person.
Have you met any famous people?
Any famous people? Well, I don't know if I just met them personally or can't remember but I remember an old cowboy named Tex Ritter. And I've seen him one time, or was where he was at. He was at a rodeo there in Madera, California. And I remember him. And I don't remember too much about any of the celebrities that I remember.
Okay, so here's a good one. If you could have dinner with 3 famous people, living or dead, who would they be and why?
If I could I would have dinner with my first wife, Ruth, my second wife, Shirley, my third wife, Helen, and then I'd pick all my grandkids, and
So just have a big old family dinner?
just to have a big family dinner.
Alrighty. Is there anything in life that you would do differently if you knew what you know now?
Well, I would have started out as a young person serving the Lord. And I would have skipped all those years that I missed out on the blessings of the Lord. And that's how I'd started my life off. And I would have probably been better off today if I would have started when I was just a teenager or even before.
Was there a person who really impacted the course of your life?
Hmm?
Was there a person who really impacted the course of your life?
There was one guy that really impacted my life, and we went to a church there when we moved to Madera, California, and it was a Gospel Defender Church. And I remember there was a young couple there that was young people's leader. And he would invite us to go to youth rallies, and him and his wife would take us to these meetings, and when we were real young, and I always have remembered them too. I don't even remember their names, but I remember those two. And they was the one that really introduced us to the Lord. And
Mommy.
What historical event in your lifetime had the most impact on you?
I guess the most, I was probably when I was married, first got married, and my life in the Army, and my life since then has been quite a ride.
Huh?
Okay.
Whoa.
So, if you had to pick something, what do you think the world needs most right now? Or what advice would you give the world right now?
My advice to the world right now would be to give their heart to the Lord and trust Him to fix all this confusion that the world's in right now, and serve the Lord with all their heart, and this world would be a great, wonderful place to live in, and for people to love one another.
Okay. So, if you could give a message to all of your grandkids,
A
something that
message
you want them to know for sure, what would that be?
to know the Lord and to serve Him with all their heart. And never go the ways of the world, but always trust the Lord in all their ways and through all their life. And when they get older, they'll enjoy what they're doing.
What is the funniest family story you remember?
The funniest show?
Family story. What is the funniest family thing you remember?
The funniest what?
Family memory.
Memories?
Mm-hmm. Funniest story.
The funniest thing. Right offhand, it's hard for me to remember, because there's been a lot of funny things that happened, but I can't remember them.
What? So, funny story for you.
Oh, I remember. I can remember one or two maybe. I remember when Randy was just a little kid, and we bought him a bicycle for Christmas. And one day Ruth took him down. There's a little park right down from our house. Ruth took him down there, and he was riding around, and he fell over, and the gooseneck of the bicycle hit him in the chest, and he looked up at his mom and said, "See what you done?" And she hadn't done anything. He just riding and fell over. That was a funny time. Another time we left him in a church, and we went home, and we had to go back to the store for something, and the pastor passed us, and we seen him, and he stopped on the side of the road, and we stopped, and he said, "Are you missing somebody or missing something?" And I couldn't think who it was. He said, "You got a boy here that you left in church." And it was Rod. We left Rod in church. Another time we left Rod, we went to Rod. He was just little, but he had got somebody's bottle and was, I guess, hiding sucking it or something. And we went out to somebody's house and to visit after Sunday school. We'd generally go to visit people after that wasn't in church on Sunday. And we was out there, I don't know, maybe a couple of hours. We got ready to go and we couldn't find Rod. And then we got thinking maybe we didn't bring him. We went home and we left him home. We'd forgot him and left him home because I guess there was so many of them we couldn't keep up with all of them.
And then how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a man of God, someone that was gentle, loved everybody, and I feel sorry for people that doesn't know the Lord. And I'd love to see everybody serving the Lord, because there's no better life to live than somebody serving the Lord. It's a more of a beautiful life when you look at somebody than knowing that they're serving God and they're happy. And that makes me happy. I think you just run out of battery, didn't you?
No.